This is the foundation. Stories from people who build things, products, services, businesses, how they started, what they're doing now, and where they're going.
Welcome, Gretchen Dale of Loftex. That sounds pretty official, doesn't it? Welcome, Gretchen. How are you today?
Good, David. Thanks so much. And don't make it official.
Tell me the foundation of Loftex, what you're doing now, and where you came from.
I came from the retail world back in the days of Allied Stores and Federated and all that time period. And I went from there into the manufacturing side. And then I joined a company called Pillowtex, which was Fieldcrest Cannon. And that sadly went out of business in 2000, and I think it was three, one of the last of the American mills. And so through a friend, I got in touch with a company in China that was looking to develop a whole marketing and sales team, design team in the United States. And so a friend of mine said, go meet them. And I thought, well, I don't know. And it was just a great experience. That was 21 years ago.
21.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then I always tell the story. The name of the company was in Chinese. And I said to the president, I said, at the end, he said, what do you think? And I said, I think this will be a great experience, but we have to change the name because I couldn't pronounce it. I said, that'll never do it in the United States. And we were sitting there and he said, well, tomorrow give me a few names. And I gave him Loftex because we make a very, very lofty product. It's big and thick and very plush. And that's the one he picked. And I think 2 or 3 days later, the logo was up on the factory.
I think when we spoke earlier, you told me the name of the Chinese company, or
It
can
was
you
called,
remember that?
I sure can. I can say it really fast. Shenzhen Binju Wagang Towel Company. And I said, I'm never going to be able to call Macy's and go, hi, this is Gretchen Dale from the Shenzhen Binju Wagang Towel Company. Couldn't do that
That's
then.
for
I can do it
sure.
now.
In a world of people saying, how do you spell your last name? That would be a tough one.
It's exactly what, but it was really a fun experience because the group over there is so fun and so creative and so young. And it was just a great experience to do all this. What had happened is quota had come off and they were allowed to the United States without quota, but they needed somebody who had retail background and so forth, which is how they got hold of me. But it was such a neat experience for me to work with people who are creative and think quickly and get it done. So that's what happened.
So tell me what Loftex produces today, sells today. What is your product?
We do a lot of things, but the major thing is towels, bath towels, hand towels, washcloths. We make throws, we make beach towels, but it's primarily anything with loops or loft to it. But towels are our primary business.
So loft, and that is a term within your industry. I've not heard that before, but
Right,
it sounds like
because
it
you want to
is.
see how lofty the towel is. And if you buy usually if you buy a $5.99 towel versus a $25 towel, and you put them next to each other, you've got, something very big and something very little. So what we do is make a well-priced, well-valued towel that looks like a $25 towel, has a lot of
Okay.
loft. And that's a thing people look for who are buying bath towels.
Okay. So who is your IPC, your ideal customer?
A Walmart, Kohl's, Costco, Sam's. We prefer people who can use large quantities because the factory is quite large. It's all brand new equipment. It works very, very quickly. And we are very, very geared with the new factory to everything sustainable. That we started in 2000, probably 14, 15. And we started with recycled polyester, putting that in towels, which is a great thing to put in towels. It's highly absorbent, dries quickly. And now we've worked our way up to things like recycled garments with which, old jeans and shirts and whatever. And the other thing we've been working on now is now that we did recycled polyester, well, that's great. But now 10 years from now, I'm going to throw that towel back in the dump and it's going to sit there for another 100 years. So we've worked with a company called Cyclo, and a natural ingredient when we extrude the recycled polyester, and that allows that towel to break down in about the same amount of time as linen or wool, which is 2 years. Big difference.
That is a big difference. Where do you get your recycled material from? Or where
Mostly
do
in
they?
China. Mostly in China. Great factories we work with, and then the Cyclo people who we met here went over and worked with them to develop this extrusion to be able to make it quickly and to be able to have this biodegradability in it.
And those polymers, if that's the right term, they don't really, you wouldn't notice them as anything other than the soft, cushiony, lofty towels that we use regularly, right?
Exactly. It actually makes the towel even more loftily because of the way we spin it. And it also, yes, there's very absorbent. So it'll wick the water away from you very quickly and keeps it from making the towel sort of damp when you get through with your, and then when you hang it up, it releases the water much faster than cotton. And it's usually only a percentage, maybe 30% polyester to 70 cotton. It makes it even better towel. It makes it more a towel that really works well.
Now, when we were speaking in our preliminary conversation, you had said that you were just having alternative conversations about the challenges today with the marketplace and the tariffs, et cetera. So tell me how you're navigating those waters.
Well, that's been the biggest issue for 2025, as everybody knows, because it's been back and forth and back and forth. We have long standing with our retailers, and we have really worked everything out. Everything is continuing to go, but the question we have now is nothing's permanent. So it's been a really difficult thing, and I have to give our retailers a lot of credit for being as considerate and wonderful as they were in working with us. And how do we get this worked out without pushing this all on the retail customer? We don't want to do that for us. And so,
I also wanted to ask you about retail in general, since you've been in the industry for quite some time. We all know that it's completely been disruptive in many ways. How does it affect your goods specifically regarding me as a customer going into the store to want to see, feel, versus hoping that if I order something online, it's what I want?
well, yes, we have both the on floor and then of course the .com, and in some areas, some of our major retailers have both. So that has not disturbed us too much, I have to say.
Interesting.
I think what's interesting to me is that both of those retailers have both those ways of getting product tend to be much more conservative than they ever were in our day in terms of what they pick.
Hmm.
So colorations or pattern, everything is very kind of blah right now. And it's one of the things we're really working on to bring back some color and excitement and pattern.
Hmm.
I think consumers want that now. I think we need it more than ever before to make ourselves feel better. But they're very conservative, both the .com people and the regular retail stores. They're afraid to try anything. You never know. In our days, it was like if you didn't have a certain percentage of markdown in your budget and mark that down, you weren't buying enough of the fun things that the retailers carried in those days. So the retailer had a markdown budget. You had a budget, and if it was 10% of your budget, you would mark it down at the end of the year. They wanted you to do that because they meant you brought new and different things in. If it didn't
Right,
sell, that was okay. It was all right because you had
right.
excitement. For today, that's very different.
Well, I wonder if that's sort of a byproduct of the fact that inventory has been challenging. SKUs are reduced in the number of them. What you can see online as a variety is probably the old sage song goes, freedom from choice is what I need, to a certain extent, where the voluminous amounts of choice that we were able to see on the shelf just aren't there anymore because of, as I said, inventory challenges and shipping and everything.
True. That's very true.
Yes. So it's nice to know that you are seeing customers who want a wider variety at this point. So,
We actually, it's
yeah,
funny, when we try new things, we very often get letters from the customer. And it's
okay,
really wonderful when Loftex gets a letter from a customer who bought something in one of our retailers and goes, "Oh my God, I just love that new towel you made," or "Thank you for that wonderful color." Because towels, the number one thing a customer goes for is color. That's the first thing she looks for because it has to match what she has in her home.
sure.
Second thing is the touch and feel. And the third thing, of course, is the price. I like it, but can I afford it? But that's pretty interesting. It's all about the color and the feel. And
Right.
she wants some excitement now. I think we haven't had enough of that. Our trend really comes out of either trend services or sometimes out of the ready to wear or the gift and hard lines area, as opposed to our soft lines area. We have to go
Okay.
elsewhere to look than from our own industry.
Is trend services a noun or is it a verb?
Both.
Both.
Um,
Okay.
there are many of them that you can sign up and join. And
Okay.
ones that we find that are really, really good um, and speak to the kind of things we do. And so that brings the newest, most advanced innovation and trends to us. And that's where we
Okay.
have to We have to go further out to look for it now than we used to.
Sure. Probably data informs that much more than it did a number of years ago, where it was more intuition, right?
Yes, exactly. That's very true.
But I think your buyers probably have a specific opinion about what sells and doesn't. So they have opinions about that too.
Yes, but it's pretty much based on data. So when you're going to move into something that's a little bit new, we have a brand new towel now that has no loops on it. Now
It
imagine
has no loops on it.
it
How is it
has no loops on
woven?
it. The loops are on the inside, and it feels like a piece of beautiful soft gauze on the outside. Now, go try to make a sale on that, and you're saying to somebody, this is something you've never seen before. And God bless one of our buyers said, I'm going to try it. And it blew out. And it surprised me because it was so new to the consumer. But I said to myself, that is a real message that the consumer is looking for something different. We now have it in multiple retailers, and it's doing really well. And that's one of the towels that we got letters from the customer saying, wow, this is really great. I love it. And same thing, it wicks all the water away from your body and keeps it inside. But then when you hang it back on the rack, it dries incredibly fast. So it's a beautiful towel. It's a super functional towel. But get somebody to make that step. So our consumer has related better to it or quicker to it than our buyers. They're finally catching on. It's been about a 2-year process.
Well, that's the old sell through then. When consumers are asking for it, buyers then ask you if they can purchase the product, right?
And now that's starting to happen. But before, consumers didn't even know this existed. So they didn't even know to ask for it. So now you have to find that one buyer who says, that's interesting. Let me try it. Let me put it
Okay.
in as in the store and see what happens. And that's how you get it going. That's the first touch points of getting it moving. And that's been really, really fun to see something like that. Or the towels that we're making out of recycled garments to see again, that was a little bit of a harder sell to the retailer. Once it was out with the consumer and the story got out there, they really liked it.
Right, right. Well, is any of that recycled manufacturing going to come back to the US, or is it just predicated on
I
prices for?
No, I hope so because we have so much here. We have so much waste.
Right.
And even things like one of the things we're doing is recycled ocean plastics. If you could see what's in the ocean. Now, you're not going to transport all that overseas to make it. So I'm very hopeful that RenewCell and some of the other people will begin doing some of that here.
I would think that it would be much more localized, like we were talking in our conversation about the company that's doing the building blocks out of recycled materials. It's not something you would want to ship across long
Exactly. I wouldn't want to
distances.
take all that ocean plastic, and if you ever saw how big it is and how heavy it is, and have to ship that somewhere else to be. So I'm hoping that that's part of this whole thing about thinking of new ways to do things because our whole world is different. We didn't have
Right.
we didn't have polyester problems 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because it wasn't that big a deal. Now everybody wears it, everybody uses it. Now, how do we deal with it? You know, you can't.
Exactly.
And I'm very hopeful that we will get somebody domestically. I really am in our area.
Is that something that you champion yourself? Do you go out and try and start those conversations, or are you hoping that somebody comes to
I'm
you?
absolutely would love for it to happen. In other words, for me, I'd have to ship it to my manufacturing facility, which is not in the United States. So that would be more difficult for me, but I absolutely would get out there. We were just in British Columbia on vacation, and they were telling the story about how when COVID came, they didn't have any tourism or anything. And these boaters took it upon themselves to start collecting all the ocean plastics. And you're shocked when you see what's in the ocean. It's just,
Oh.
and I got right with them and we did some things. I got going with them to try to help them market and do what they were doing. I thought it was a great story.
Well, let's talk a little bit about when you said market. I like that. What sort of channels or strategies are working well for Loftex at this point?
I think what's working the best for us is one is sustainability. And that
Mhm.
means anything that's really good for the earth and keeps it, even cotton has become much more sustainable the way we grow it, with the way the cotton growers grow it. They use less chemicals, they use less water than they ever have. And that has now moved over not only from the United States, that's where we would be number one, but moving into India and places like that where a lot of the cotton is grown. So that's, I think, one of our very major pushes in marketing. And the second thing for us is um, what you get from loft towels are extremely good value. They're not cheap and they're not expensive, but you get a hugely expensive looking and functioning towel for a good value. And I think even our mass marketers have caught on, to that.
That's fantastic. Well, Gretchen, I want to be respectful of your time and our time, and I would like to ask you, as we sort of wind down our conversation, what kind of growth do you see for Loftex in regards to continued building or scaling, refining, or all three of those?
Well, I think, it was interesting the first few years, it was a struggle. We tried to set ourselves apart by being innovative. That was our everything we did had to be innovative. And we've built ourselves up to that level. And if anybody, the retailers think about, I want to do something new and different, that's us. So you reach a point, if we could have more retailers, it would help. The other thing we haven't talked about is over the last 5 years, the number of retailers that have gone out of business in the United States is astronomical. Well, it's sort of a subject we hate to talk about, but I was talking with one of our major retailers at last market, and I said to him, "How's business?" He said, "It's pretty good." He said, "It'd be a lot better if we had a lot of the other stores back, because that competition made everybody keener and so forth." But over even this past year, we've lost 4 or 5 major textile retailers. And that's tough. I hate to see that, and I hope we see a comeback of some of them.
Well, what do you think would help spur that comeback?
I think one of the things I think that has hurt that and the comeback is all the Amazons and things like that, where you can buy anything. And I'm just as bad as anybody. I'm not preaching, but if I need something, I go to Amazon. Why I'm thinking about it and order that one thing.
Right.
The days of all of us going out and shopping for the afternoon, I used to do that occasionally. I do it more rarely now. It used to be almost an enjoyment to go shopping. Now it's more like, okay, let me just order it on Amazon and I can return it in a heartbeat if I want to. So I think that has harmed the, the in presence of the retailers. And I hope we see that come back. I really do.
Well, that's true, because when malls were sprouting up, as we all know, in the late 60s, there was a desire to have a leisurely afternoon to go look at goods and ponder what you might be purchasing next, versus now the immediacy
It
has been
is.
exacerbated by those online services, as you said.
I say I'm just as bad as anybody because, and then you go, well, let me try it. And if it doesn't, I'll just return it. And
Right.
everybody has a Staples or whatever. You just go in. I went this morning to return something. It took 2 seconds. So nobody asks any questions. They just take it back. So it makes life easier. But again, you're talking about this cycle that we live in, which is hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And it would be nice to see a little bit more of, let me go shopping this afternoon. I know I would like that.
What would you like to tell me and others that are watching this?
I'd love to tell everybody to start thinking positively, get excited again about your home, love having people in your home. I think we all got away from that a lot during COVID, and it's been really hard to come back. And I think it's something we all need, to have people in your home and show up the kind of things that you like and how you feel and what your personality is. So I really hope everybody will come back around in that circle and start that again. That would be good for all of us, not only for business, but for us emotionally, I think, too.
Thank you.
The Foundation is produced by Studio Conover and edited by Brett Euler. Studio Conover is a strategic marketing design firm for manufacturers of building products. Visit studioconover.com for more information.